Hi, my name is Paul Nuccio, and this is my video assignment number one, presentation for macroeconomics equal 112, lecture number 29651 with Professor Stroud for the fall 2025 semester of the College of Staten Island. Be responding to three questions today. First one being about the first one in regards to a foundational concept in economics being that one's spending is another's income. The second question is going to be in regards to opportunity cost. And the third question will be in regards to incentives. Um, as mentioned, the first question, question number one, in class, we learned that one person's spending is another person's income. Provide a scenario that supports this position. Explain why this concept is particularly important and justify your answer. So, as I mentioned, this is the foundation of economics. Core concept of this is that every dollar a person spends becomes income for another, whether it be another person or another business. You can take a look at this circular flow. I'm sorry. Well, first we'll provide a scenario. The scenario or example, I go down to my local bagel store. My neighborhood is Bagel Depot. I spend $15 at Bagel Depot. That $15 is my spending money, but now it has become Bagel Depot's income. And this brings us to the circular flow of income as as illustrated in this chart on this diagram. Purchases of goods and services from households and income. Well, income from households is then turned into purchases of goods and services from firms. Firms then pay out wages, dividends, interest, profit, and rent using the customers' spending money, which has now become their income, which then circulates back into the households. We also have these households contributing taxes to the government, which then in turn the government uses the tax money to make purchases. Money flows back to the firms. Firms pay out taxes, and the government flows that money back out in the form of social transfers back to the household and income. And the circle continues. The households buy more goods and services, firms pump out more wages, dividends, interest, profits, and rent to the households, and the circle goes up. As mentioned, the owner uses the money to pay their employees, buy supplies, and it continues the flow of the circle, as mentioned. As now your spending money became my spending money became Bagel Depot's income, and then in turn, Bagel Depot's income then turns into their spending money, which they then spend to pay their employees or their suppliers, which then becomes their employees or their suppliers' income. And the circle continues and continues and continues. That employee will then go and use their income and turn it into spending cash wherever they plan to spend their money at, whether it's at the clothing store like H&M, and then H&M uses the customer spending money to generate their income, and then H&M turns their income into spending, etc., etc. Or the bagel store suppliers, whoever's supplying them these supplies for their bagel operations, such as the wheat for flour, their wheat supplier, whatever, their drink supplier, beverage suppliers, they have to pay back their suppliers. That in turn, or they either have to pay back the money they owe their suppliers or pay their suppliers for more inventory, depending on whether they are on a credit or a consignment basis with their suppliers, or if it's just buy and transact. That supplier then uses the Bagel Depot spending money for supplies for their income, and then that supplier then turns their income into their spending money to see and spend it on how they see fit, whether it be paying their employees, paying their business taxes, paying off their debts, etc. Why this is important, it shows how interconnected the economy is. A slowdown in spending can then lead to a domino effect of reduced income for everyone and economic decline in general. The second question, describe the concept of opportunity cost and provide a realistic example. What is opportunity cost? Layman's terms, it is the value of what you give up. And as this picture illustrates, opportunity cost means choosing A means giving up on B, or choosing road A means giving up on road B, or choosing road B means giving up on road A, vice versa. Um, the core concept is, in simplest terms, the opportunity cost is the value of what you are sacrificing or foregoing when you make a choice or decision to pursue or complete something else. Meaning, the cost of taking road A is the value of whatever you gave up on road B. Meaning, whatever lie ahead on the value of whatever lie ahead on road B is the cost or the opportunity cost of taking road A, and vice versa. The opportunity cost of taking road B is the value of whatever lie ahead on road A that you sacrifice in order to take road B. The scenario or example, you have 2 hours. Your choices are to A, study for your macroeconomics exam with Professor Stroud, or B, play your video games. The trade-off, if you choose to study, the opportunity cost is the enjoyment of playing those games, video games. If you choose to play the video games, the opportunity cost is the potential better grade you could have gotten on your exam had you taken the time, the 2 hours to review the material and give yourself a chance. Another example of this, a real life example for me recently, my real life connection example. I recently bought a Mercedes-Benz AMG automobile, E-Class Mercedes AMG. Now the car is living a little bit amongst above my means. I won't lie. But at the time, I believe that when I bought the Mercedes vehicle, that the opportunity cost of not buying the Mercedes and going with a more practical vehicle like a Honda or a Toyota or, something along those lines, the opportunity cost of foregoing the Mercedes in favor of a more practical car, the opportunity cost would be the luxury and prestige and enjoyment and fulfillment that I would have received from riding around in the Mercedes AMG E-Class. Um, and vice versa, the opportunity cost for me to when I bought the Mercedes, the opportunity cost was having a healthy bank account. The cost of me having my AMG luxury vehicle, my AMG luxury Mercedes vehicle, the opportunity cost is the opportunity to have money in my bank. I have, you know, I foregoed, I for, I foregoed having a healthy bank account in order to have my AMG Mercedes. Had I foregoed the Mercedes, I probably would have and bought a more practical vehicle. I probably would have given up, or it would have costed me the luxury of the Mercedes, but I would have had my healthy bank account. So it's trade-off. If you choose, I'm sorry, I read that already. Why this is important, it helps understand how individuals and businesses make decisions when resources like time or money are limited. It gives insight into how individuals and businesses make decisions and choices on the fly when they must think and act quickly and on their feet. Finally, the third question, question number 3, what is meant by incentives? Describe a scenario that explains this concept and explain how incentives are important. Understanding incentives is understanding what motivates us. The core concept of is an incentive is anything that motivates or encourages an individual to act in a certain way. The scenario here at CSI, your doormate's side of the room is a mess. You offer them $50 to clean it up by the end of today. The action, the $50 is the positive incentive that motivates your roommate to clean. You're offering them money to clean up around here. And the deadline of by the end of the day further incentivizes them or adds a second incentive to clean now immediately without postponement or procrastination. Because had you just say, I'll give you $50 to clean, that doesn't mean that the person will get up immediately and start cleaning. Oh, I'm getting $50 to clean, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. But if you tell them you get $50, if you get the $50, if you do it by the end of today, you give them two incentives. You give them one incentive, meaning you give them the $50 incentive to clean, and then you give them the second incentive by the end of the day to do it now. Not later, but now. Another example of an incentive, more real life example of incentives, during his presidency, former President Joe Biden had offered Americans tax credits, tax breaks, had they went out and purchased an electric vehicle. During his presidency, Joe Biden had pushed for a lot of conservational efforts, going green, moving away from traditional gasoline-powered vehicles that produce a lot of emissions, moving towards electric vehicles, EVs, more sustainable transportation in terms of earth earth sustainability. The tax credits or the tax breaks incentivized or motivated people to, when they went out and bought a new car, instead of going out and going to, like I did, going to Mercedes and buying a gas-powered Mercedes, right? Instead of buying that E-Class 53, that AMG Mercedes that, was a V inline six, turbo powered, turbo and supercharged engine. They went out and instead maybe bought the Mercedes EQV, right? Or went out and bought bought an electric vehicle from any car dealership, really. Instead of going out and buying that V8 Monster or that V6 twin turbo Monster, these people were going out and buying, like, some people were going out and buying electric vehicles because they were incentivized or motivated by Biden's tax relief or promises of tax relief. They were incentivized to go out and buy that electric vehicle, whereas they really had no motivation or incentive to do it beforehand, before they were offered tax breaks. Why this is important: incentives are crucial for predicting behavior. Economists use incentives to understand how people respond to policies, prices, and changes in the market. Specifically, incentives show us how people typically predict how people respond to policy change, price change, or overall just changes in the market. Mm, as mentioned, the um, policy changes in America under Biden had were moving towards a lot of different emissions policies. As mentioned, the EVs, the pushing of EVs on the public. They were trying to see how people would respond to that policy change by offering them tax breaks. Um, yeah. Again, and thank you. I'm sorry. The key takeaways from this, review of core concepts, again, circular flow of money. Your spending fuels someone else's income and vice versa, and so on and so forth for forever. Opportunity cost, every choice has a cost, the value of the alternative that you ultimately didn't choose. The cost of taking, basically to review, the cost of taking road A is the value of whatever would have laid ahead on road B, the road that you didn't take. And then finally, incentives. People respond to rewards and punishments, and understanding this helps us predict behavior. Again, my name is Paul Nuccio. This was my video assignment response number 1 for macroeconomics, Eco 112, I believe lecture number 29651 with Professor Mark Stroud for the fall 2025 semester here at the College of Staten Island. Thank you.